We're going to ask you a question. I want everyone to just go around, quickly introduce yourself before you answer the question. And we're just going to start out with an easy question, and we're going to bring up audience questions. What would you say would be some of the most important things we should do if they pull this shit again and try to repeat the lessons that they've learned to control people? How are we going to handle it differently this time? And let's start with Neil.
Well, thanks, James. And before I say anything, I want to thank the Mises Caucus for putting this together also. I mean, really appreciate what they're doing. The Libertarian Party. I just want to quickly talk about before I get into your answer on that. But who are you? Who am I? Well, I'm Neil Schloss. I'm a CPA in Hightstown, right in the center of town. So if you drive by, maybe you'll be seeing me play more steel drums and less accounting in the future. But at the same time, for 30 years I've been a CPA. 20 years ago I kind of got the idea of CanaSense that came into play. We didn't form that entity for a long time until 2015, where we now have medical cannabis shipped right to a person's home, as well as for recreational now. And like I said, that's just been a program to kind of put in place for freedom. But for your thing, stand up for your rights. I mean, it takes a little bit to stand up for your rights. I mean, guy like him, it's easy. Big dude. I mean, okay, I'm this little dude. I sit in the back of a desk, and all I do is think about how to defend people. So as a CPA, it's stand up for your rights. Like, question, right? You have the right to redress your grievance with the government. It's your First Amendment right, so you should do that more often. I mean, if you paper the government enough, you're going to get tired of paper, and ultimately, they're useless. They won't do anything. So I say stand up for your rights. And if you could do it in the right procedures in writing, ask the questions, wait for their answers. If they don't answer, then default them. And once you default them, they're useless. Like that entity really doesn't mean anything because they're an unconstitutional entity. So stand up for your rights.
Right on. Ian Smith, you guys know. Welcome again.
My name is Ian Smith, for anybody who didn't know. I would say that they're going to try this again. And I think that they have, they've sort of established the idea that they can. But if you look, I was at a Bordentown Board of Education meeting, and they actually wrote into their procedure and their bylaws for the township that at any time that they can put masks back on children if they decide that it's a threat. And they have this scale of green, yellow, orange, red, which is some arbitrary crap that really doesn't mean anything. But the framework is there for them to do this again. And they'll follow the same exact playbook. You'll see case numbers starting to rise, or it'll be some new variant or some new existential threat. But it's important to realize that they will try this again. Very, very rarely has government seized power and not used it over and over and over again. I think that they've proven that they'll do that as many times as you'll let them. And that's the key right there. Is there's a very simple reality that people ignore. Most people are good in nature and typically want to avoid conflict. But I think that as a culture, we've gotten too agreeable. We tend to just go with the flow because we're afraid of this perceived idea that somehow we're going to be punished for not listening to the government or for going against the grain. And the way government and media operate is they create realities that don't truly exist. When you have big corporate media and big corporate social media with the technology that they have, they can ratchet up the sound of the crazy and tone down the common sense, and they make people feel really isolated and alone. But the reality is very simple, and it's a very true one. There are so many more people than there are handcuffs, and there are health enforcement officers, or there is whoever they will to punish you. So be a part of the majority that stands up, and you'll see very quickly that most of their power is smoke and mirrors.
Audrey Danowski.
Hi, I'm the founder of Don't Tread on Philly. Group in Philadelphia just fighting to make it cooler to live free than to live on your knees. Because that's a big problem that we have here in this country, is it's suddenly become way cooler to just comply and just take it from the government than it is to live free. So we got to make freedom cool again somehow, and I don't know how to do that, but we'll figure it out.
Right on.
But so yeah, what do we do? What do we learn? Well, I'm personally an anarchist. I do not believe in the legitimacy of government and authority. I hate the state. Nothing has made me hate the state more than COVID. It'll turn you from a minarchist to an anarchist really quick. But part of the reason why I believe that, and it's something that I hold philosophically, is okay. So think about what this is, a medical freedom festival. So what's freedom? Freedom is the state of being free, of having liberty. Well, I have this firm belief that each and every one of us is a sovereign, autonomous being. We have control over our lives and our bodies. No one else does. So what's health? What's medical? What's health? Health is being and taking care of that autonomy and that freedom and that sovereignty. It's taking care of yourself. It's taking care of those around you. There's things that libertarians will believe in, like the non-aggression principle. You don't violate somebody else's sovereignty and their own autonomy. So when the government comes and says, hey, you got to put a mask on, you got to put a jab on, you got to take the jab, you got to shut down your business, or you can't be around people. I live by myself with my dog in a townhome in Philly. For 3 weeks, I didn't see a single other human being because I wasn't allowed to. It's ridiculous. Like, that violates your sovereignty. And so what I learned really quick was just don't comply. Nullify, and don't comply. They don't hold any sort of legitimate authority over you, period. And so, one of the things that, we tried to do at Don't Tread on Philly, we got a local bar that was against this stuff big time. They didn't shut down. Apparently they got shut down for 2 weeks, but they never got fined, nothing. They stayed open the entire time. And we decided we were going to start weekly happy hours there and just do it. Even though we were supposed to be vaccinated, even though we weren't supposed to, be allowed to hang out, we said, screw it. We're going to go on social media. We're going to say, we're going to be here. You're free to come. You don't have to be vaccinated. That is the answer, is just say no. Don't comply. Don't give these people power that they do not rightfully have.
Right on. Maj Toure.
Yeah, my answer is a little more grim. There is nothing that the state won't enforce up into killing you and your children. It's not if they do it again, to Ian's point, it's when. It's just what it is. When you view government as the mob that it is, it's just mob rule. If I got a corner and it's doing numbers because I've scared everybody and somebody wants to move differently, I have to eliminate that threat to my business. That is the mob. That is what your government is. So, you may think it as simple as just not wanting to wear a mask, or that lowly TSA agent just giving you kind of a harassment for 3 hours every time you get on the plane. I bought an RV. I was over it, right? But that TSA agent is a potential Agent Smith. they're plugged into something that has control of their brain. And if Agent Smith shows up, what are you going to do? You cannot reason with entities that want your complete subjugation. Yep. The answer, among your level of commitment to it, because that may not be your lane, the answer is violence. See how awkward it is in here right now? And I'm saying that because the state, the government, is the mafia, and you are paying a protection racket. All of the fees, the illegal seizure of assets, literally going into your piggy bank to take hundreds of thousands of dollars, that is a mafia tactic. And if you start to present too much resistance, they'll ignore one or two. But when you collectively do it, they'll ratchet up their power. And do you have the means to defend what's yours, potentially with violence? This is not a joke. I live in Philadelphia. 30 years or so ago, Philadelphia state government literally dropped a firebomb on a municipal block in West Philadelphia. 2 blocks burned down. This is the state. This wasn't 100 years ago. This was within our lifetime. Move. How many people haven't even heard about it?
I'm from Philadelphia.
Boom. My point in saying this is, when they try this again, I am 100% with alternative means of preventing this. But the bully, the bad guy, gets to say what you're going to do to stop it. Up into that potentially grim answer, you got to search your own soul for that. And you have to ask yourself a very legitimate question. Do I believe in autonomy of myself, my friends, my family, these babies running around here? Do I really, really, really believe that and know that to be true? And if I do, am I doing the things necessary to prepare if and when the bully decides he wants more of our autonomy lunch money? And if you're not willing to ask yourself that harsh question, you should go be a Democrat and comply.
Right on. Mike Heiss.
So kind of tying into what Maj was just saying, I think the first thing, and you have to take personal stock of this, is you have to shed your fear. You know, you have to shed your fear from the repercussions, shed your fear of the social ramifications. You know, to be candid with you, when the COVID first broke out, I wore the mask. I thought it was working. It wasn't, and they had the benefit of the doubt as to the danger of the virus to kind of put us on our heels at the very beginning. It wasn't until, and this was pretty early on in COVID, but it wasn't until we had the nursing home situation in Pennsylvania where they put active COVID cases into nursing homes, and that made up like a large block of the total deaths, that I said, oh no, I'm not prostrating myself for these killers anymore. You know, and everybody has to have that kind of, that threshold that it takes for you, and it takes stock. And then after that, you have to lead by example. And sometimes it might seem ridiculous. You know, I pretty much had to, as somebody who stopped wearing the mask going wherever I wanted, I basically had to psychologically prepare to get a coffee. I'm gonna walk into the Wawa, I'm gonna have my shoulders straight, you ain't fucking with me, and project it. And when I did that, I was surprised at the number of people who saw it and then themselves would pull down their masks or say something or give me a little encouragement. So when you lead by example, you become a beacon. But then the other thing that you have to do, and all of us have a very good opportunity to do this one right here, right now, build your network, build your support base. We're all here having a good time right now, enjoying ourselves, but how many phone numbers have you exchanged? We should all be networking and supporting each other, because that makes it easier to take the risk when you know you're not bearing the load by yourself.
Right on. Definitely. That's excellent. Do we have some questions from the audience? Does anybody want to come forward? We could make a line right here. Come on, come forward.
Hi, I'm Zach. I'm from Bergen County, New Jersey. Hi, hello everyone. And this is going to be, I have a couple of practical questions. Most of them I'm going to answer the event, but like, for example, when you go to the dentist office, I recently had a dentist appointment. I'm ashamed of this, but I complied. I wore the muzzle. I did what I had to do. I want to get my teeth checked. So there's going to be a bunch of very practical questions like this, but do you guys know a dentist, eye doctor, because I wear contacts? Not because I feel as though I need to prove to the state I'm worthy to drive with them in my face, but if I literally don't have them, I can't even see to the platform, right? So I really do need them. So do we have a network of people that aren't going to require these ridiculous things? Because let's be honest, the precedent is still there. If you go to an urgent care, you go to an eye doctor, you go to a dentist, they're still playing the COVID game, whatever you want to call it. So these are going to be a bunch of practical questions that I think are more likely going to be answered outside of this formal platform. But does everyone know someone in every business that isn't playing the COVID game, especially in the medical field? Because let's be honest, they're still playing that. If you guys know anyone off the top of your head, great. Please tell me privately. But I think we need to start asking these types of questions. Who do we know that isn't playing the COVID game or in the medical field? And also, who else do we know isn't going to play the next game when the next thing starts to happen? Like, I know they're talking about climate stuff. I'm personally a huge environmentalist. I volunteer at an organization called MEVO. Granted, it's a 501c3. A lot of people there happen to be lefty, but I like what they do at the ground level, and I leave the politics out of it. But what are we going to do when all of a sudden they're going to try and put price ceilings on food or do something stupid like that? Do we know farmers? Do we know people for the next thing? Because that's one thing everyone needs to ask. But as more of a practical thing, just walk up to me after this thing and say, hey, Zach, by the way, here's a business card, or here's an eye doctor, a dentist, a regular doctor that won't require you to play the COVID game every time you go see him, because I want to be able to vote with my wallet, and I feel like I don't know where to go with that right now.
That's fair.
That's a very good question.
I actually do have I have one practical answer for you. I drive all the way up to Eatontown to go to the doctor. There's a physician, the Lombardi Marino Wellness Institute. They never played the game from the beginning. That may not be practical for everybody, but and I don't know beyond that, dentists and stuff like that, but I would recommend looking at a place like that. There are places around, but your question highlights the importance of two things. One, like you said, networking. The more people you come in contact with and communicate with, the higher the likelihood that you're going to find those types of places, because they definitely do exist. And then the second thing, when you started to talk about all of this, dental care and all these things, it highlights the importance of self-autonomy and being able to provide for yourself, because one of the tenements of being free is not needing a whole lot from other people. Or having that network of people around you. So when it comes to things like food caps and all these ridiculous things, you need to start educating yourself about a backyard garden, about farmers in your area. We don't go to the grocery store for pretty much anything. We shop at farmers markets and we buy cow. And I invested, with a couple friends in one, and we split it up and we go through it like that. So it's about communication. The networks are there, but you have to be very, very proactive about it. But the Lombardi Marino Wellness Institute in Eatontown is a good place to start for anybody who's looking for direction in the medical field.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to respond to that? Go ahead.
Pay in cash. Pay in cash. I had to get some dental work done. The dentist who actually had COVID and was like, he was really like impacted, right? He was like, bro, I'm not tripping about a mask. The lady up front was kind of bugging about a mask. And I was like, listen, bro, I'm getting work done. I'm not wearing a mask. And she's an older lady. So I'm like, oh, Miss Shirley, don't beat me up. And I'll able to have that little moment with her, right? But pay in cash. If there's $4 or $5 grand coming in, and a lot of people have canceled appointments, and you got their bread, pay in cash. So that's what has helped me a lot through it. And now let me be clear. I'm not like saying like, yo, just go buy an electric car. Like, I'm not saying it like that. I'm just saying start planning for those things and make more smart decisions with your finances, but paying in cash helps.
I would add to that is be willing to make sacrifices. You might have to miss that appointment until you find the dentist that won't screw with you like that. We're gonna have to counter woke capitalism with awake capitalism. We're gonna have to start voting with our dollars and rewarding the people that reflect our values as well, because unfortunately that's the world that we live in. And I would also say find the networks like Ian said. So I'll give you one for example. There's a nationwide network out there called Freedom Cells. Politics only goes so far, and there's only so much solutions that you can find through politics, and a lot of it is mutual aid networks and things like this. Freedom Cells is a nationwide decentralized network of people that engage in that mutual aid. They engage in growing and trading of food, trading of skills, medical skills, all kinds of things. And there might be one in your county. So seek those out and get engaged, get active, because unfortunately the time where we can just kind of drift through and life and go with the flow and to whatever story one is over if we want to live our values.
Right on. Does anyone else want to respond to that, or should we go to the next question? Sir?
Okay, hi. I'm Roger Bacon. I'm running in District 7 against Malinowski. I was a late arrival, so I just want to introduce myself. And with respect to the medical issue, it's a symptom of corporate medicine. I went to an appointment. I had COVID in October. I have natural SARS immunity. I had COVID. I can't give it to you. I can't get it from you. I don't need to wear a mask. But it was a policy of the doctor's office from the corporate level, I guess, because they wouldn't listen to reason. So you have to wear a mask because you're in medical practice and you don't recognize natural SARS immunity. I gave it right back to them. But what are you gonna do? I mean, I had to see my doctor. I had to wear the mask. I didn't wear it when I went for the exam. I just took it off because I don't want any miscommunication with my doctor, so I didn't wear it, and I didn't wear it on the way out of the office. It was just a moment I had. We got vocal, when I checked in. So that's my comment on the medicine. But I think the networking that's a great idea, and I think that the initial question was, what do we do when the shit hits the fan again? I'm with Ian. We need more people to run for office. We need to challenge these incumbents. Malinowski had no challenger. Murphy had no challenger. I ran against him last year, and he knocked me off the ballot because they didn't have enough Democrat signatures. Because my statement now, I'm running for Congress now, and my statement is to get the legislature to remove him from office for violating his constitutional duties and his oath of office, which he did. The Constitution says all legislative, executive, and judicial officers shall support the Constitution. There's no question about that. And when he talked to Tucker Carlson, he said he wasn't thinking about the Bill of Rights. Did anybody hear that? The Tucker Carlson interview? Yeah, you remember that, right? He said flat out he wasn't thinking about the Bill of Rights. Bingo, he's out of the batter's box. He abdicated his office right there when he made that statement, but the media let him go with it. So the original question was, what do we do when the shit hits the fan? We have an officer in every county who can defend us, and that's the sheriff. He takes an oath to support the Constitution and defend our constitutional rights. That's why we elect him. That office goes way back for that purpose, to defend our rights. So if more people would run for sheriff, and when somebody confronts you, you call the sheriff and say, okay, sheriff, here's this guy, now do your job. We have to hold him accountable, and that's what I'm saying. If you have an opportunity, run for sheriff, because he's a powerful guy. And he can arrest the governor. The sheriff can arrest the governor.
When's that going to happen?
I know we had 21.
When we get a good sheriff.
So nobody arrested him. Nobody in the whole country.
They're just waiting for a politician to violate their oath of office, and then they're going to spring into action and get them.
I don't know what's holding these sheriffs up. I guess they're all politicized. I guess that's all I can
politicians.
But I just want to say hi and wish you the best.
Thank
All right,
Appreciate
want to
you.
spread the word? I'm a one-man band. I have a website and the Facebook page, Roger Bacon for Congress.
That,
Cool.
that
Roger
comment,
Bacon.
that comment was sizzling, Mr. Bacon.
James, can I just say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so, I mean, he brought up a point about medical freedom, which, of course, this whole event's about. And, I mean, I do find it where professionals like doctors are licensed by the state, so the fear of losing a license is probably the stronghold that affects a professional from making that decision to stand up for themselves. It's an interesting thing that I see in our society. It's like, I'm a CPA, I'm licensed. It was like the first thought after my arrest was, am I losing my license? So for me, it was like, this will be an experiment of a CPA to do a test to see if I'm going to lose my license. And everyone's like, oh, Neil, what's going to happen? And of course, I mean, at that point in time in my life, I'm like, licensing is not important. I mean, I think I'm educated in my profession that I don't need a license assigned to me, but that's just the professional aspect of life. Like, it gives you credibility maybe, but at the same time, and it worked out that they didn't take my license. I mean, I felt like I didn't do anything wrong except for provide medical cannabis to people around the country, and at a time where people felt you can't do that.
Well, wait until they see my tax return, and then we'll see if you still have a license.
Yeah. So the main thing I said is it's licensing. Licensing is the stronghold against the neck of a professional to say, like, I need to comply with these people. Because if I don't, I lose my license. And if I lose my license, I lose my career, and I can't support my family. So it's really like, to me, it's not the license that makes the professional. It's the professional being the professional and doing their duty to help in a health situation. Doesn't matter if it's government telling you these fears.
Good.
So,
What do you guys think about professional licensure in general and like health licenses for restaurants, liquor licenses? These were the immediate sticks they went to control businesses. And people complained about it, but to me, this battle may have been lost when they agreed to this licensure system. When you consented to be like, okay, I'll get my liquor license, you set yourself up for them to turn it off, right? So, well, could part of the solution be to maybe challenge some of these established paradigms, like a liquor license, like a food license, things like that?
100%. In a fight, you're supposed to expect contact. That's a contact point. It's, you're not going to do this. We have leverage over this if you believe in that. I carry a gun everywhere. Everywhere. I do not have a license anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm saying that because it's like, okay, if the bad guy shows up and he's like, oh man, we're going to start stabbing people, am I going to look for my license or my gun? You know what I'm saying? And so, like, conceptually, like mentally, we do have to, that's a pressure point that they're going to argue. Now, how many licenses have you, have you all lost? It's like Instagram pages for me. It's like they're gonna take it. They're gonna do it. Like, that's a part of the contact.
It becomes an attack vector.
You
becomes
have
an
to
attack
expect
surface.
that contact, and then usually what happens is once you maintain the consistency in your fight, after a while they'll give it back. They'll be exposed that they're wrong, and then they'll pretend like they didn't do it in the first place. You just got to have the fortitude to rumble through that, but that's absolutely going to be a contact.
So if I can jump in here, that part of cannabis right now, everyone's trying to get the cannabis license for the state that they're in to have the state regulate you, which of course is so against my own thought process. And it's the question of, do I try to jump into that game, or at the same time, like as a CPA, the question is, do I want to be in their jurisdiction, or do I want to always stay out of their jurisdiction? Because if I'm out of their jurisdiction, guess what? They don't bother me. Yeah. And if you want to pay use tax on your tax return for the cannabis you purchase, go right ahead. But that's your choice, not my choice to enforce it on you because I'm licensed by the state. But it's an interesting thing. I mean, but legally also, and this I have to thank Mike Pannone, who, even though he's doing sound, he's probably the most brilliant man I've ever met.
Thanks, Mike.
We became friends during the Ron Paul campaign. I took over the process of just getting Ron Paul on the ballot. He was the previous one. He told me, I do not want to be involved. You go crazy when you get into politics. And of course, I luckily roped him in, and of course learned so much from him. But there's a court case, right? Yickwo v. Hopkins? Yickwo v. Hopkins. It's probably the most impressive court case where the judge said, like, we are sovereign. We created this monster. Like, so I had an IRS case a long time ago, and the first question I asked the agent was, do you have rights over me? Do you have rights over me?
Nope.
Do I have rights over you?
Nope.
So then how the hell did the two of us form this entity that put rights over us? Like, that's crazy. Like, we'd be insane. So she was like, yeah, you're right. So I showed him Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution was literally is an important paragraph in the Constitution that literally says they are nothing. Like, government is, like, we are their masters. Not that I want to have anyone be masters, but we literally as sovereign individuals have rights over governments. And we just need, like I say, to stand up and take it back. I mean, so the court case, just to quickly run through the IRS cases, I questioned it. They never answered me. I redressed it again. I finally said, listen, I'm a CPA. I did all the tracking of the letters sent to you to prove that I've audited you, because that's my role as a CPA, is to audit things, is to say, like, you never answered me. So you have to be in default of that question. And you can't come back and take the power back. But of course, what do we do as humans? We give it to them. Like, we have a natural tendency, like, hey, we elected that right person, so he's going to take care of us tomorrow. When reality is, the role of government is so limited. It should be a weekend job. You go, you say, hey guys, like, government's keeping everyone free. Great, have a great day. We don't need this big conglomerate of a master over us. And as I said, stand up when you feel it, and then write it. I mean, I know Lynn spoke about it, and they wrote it. It's the question of religious belief. Like, that's the most fundamental thought. Like, everyone has a right to their own religion, their way to speak about it. I mean, I feel like I babble sometimes, and I feel like no one wants to listen to me. But I just feel like let me babble to myself, and eventually people will say, like, hey, I think he makes common sense. So common sense, like I say, is common sense. It's a free market model. It's government shouldn't be involved. I mean, am I trying to play the game right now to get a New Jersey license? I'm doing it as a joke because Hightstown will not answer my question if they have jurisdiction over me, which I've asked, and they don't answer. So they've defaulted. So I'd like to change the town name of Hightstown to Hightown, which is a goal, like a literal CPA goal, to change the entity by literally wiping them out as an entity because they're an unconstitutional entity. And if they're unconstitutional, they shouldn't belong. So let me see if I make that happen. We'll see.
Welcome to Hightown.
Welcome to Hightown.
All right, next question, please.
Hi. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm a mom, and I'm pissed off.
Thank you for your service.
I'm really, really pissed off. And I just want to say that I want to know what you guys are going to do to help us as moms, because we feel like we're alone. We feel like we're swimming in all of this stuff, and we don't know what to do. I'm part of NJ Stands Up. We have a table over there, and we have petitions going on. We have information for you, but I want to know what you're going to do to help us, because no one is helping us. No politician is helping us. Murphy is, of course, not helping us. So I want to know what you're going to do to help us. Thank you.
Good question.
No one's coming to save you.
Well, you know,
Homeschool is what I'm told. Homeschool.
the reality of the situation.
That's not an option for everyone. Homeschool is not an option for everyone. So what?
That's the answer.
So, unfortunately, the answer is that nobody is coming to save you, and that is a grim statement, but it's also a very empowering one, and I want to provide some perspective on that, because a lot of these questions filter back to this same answer, and that's, having to sacrifice greatly in order to live your value system. I hate cliches, but freedom is not free. And that doesn't always mean that you defend it with bullets and violence. That's usually the last stop. But there are many fights to be had along the way. However, they are fights. They are going to be struggles. They are going to be difficult. It is not fun. Speaking from the experiences I've had, and I can attest to other people up here, having to go against the system is not fun. However, it is necessary and it is the only way. So when it comes to all of these questions, we need to start thinking how, as individuals, we empower ourselves to not be reliant and dependent upon the system. Obviously, we live in a country where there is a system, and there are certain benefits to it. However, as Americans, we have gotten so used to the system that life feels impossible outside of it. The medical question, since this is medical freedom, to elaborate more onto that, if you continue to depend on Western medicine as it exists today, you will always be a slave to this kind of stuff because they will always have the upper hand and you will always need them. Now, you can't fix all of your medical problems on your own. So thankfully, there are some good doctors out there and dentists out there and people who provide other services out there. But the reality is that the more you take your life into your own hands, and every aspect of your life into your own hands, the more free you will be, and the easier it is to say, fuck you, no. That's the reality, because when you provide your own income, when you can provide your own food, when you can provide your own protection, when you can educate your own children, you can say, I will not comply, and there is nothing that they can do to you any longer. If you can provide your own income, it doesn't matter if they try to take your job or they try to cancel you, because you're able to provide for yourself. And the list goes on and on and on. And the public school one is a major question right now. I've been to many Board of Education meetings during this run for Congress because there are parents just like you guys who are asking for help and who are asking for backup and support, and the system is not there for you. You are in for a fight. You are fighting for your children, and no matter how hard it gets, lean into that and the importance of that statement. These young ones running around here are the future of this country, and they are innocent, and they need to be protected at all costs. And if that means that as an adult, even if you are a single parent, you have to sacrifice. There are solutions. They are not easily found, but they are out there. And the only thing that I can say is echoing that same sentiment that nobody is coming to save you. So network and sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's hard to answer the question of what can I do, because again, like Ian said, nobody is coming to save you. What I can do is I can tell you some stories. I went to a school board meeting in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania, and a group of moms were standing up for their kids and protesting the mask mandates in those schools. And this was one of the most powerful moments I think I saw during this entire pandemic. This one mom gets up. She was a Syrian refugee. Her family, I think, had some involvement in the Armenian genocide. Like this was somebody who was an immigrant. She was not afraid to lose. She wasn't afraid of what authority would tell her if authority disagreed with her. So she got up and she said, "Hey, you guys need to get rid of this mandate tonight. And if you don't do this tonight, if you do not lift the mask mandate, I am sending my child tomorrow to school without a mask." And she looked at every single member of that school board. She looked at the superintendent, the principals, the members. She said, "I will do this tomorrow, and you will do the right thing." And she was dead serious. So what happened? They of course, didn't even address the mask mandate. They said, oh, well, we're going to reconvene on March 17th and talk about the masks, or, just they spent an hour that night talking about whether or not they were going to rename a building, the gym, like, Joe Smith Gym, or keep it, Upper Darby High School Gym in memory of Joe Smith. They spent an hour arguing this when parents wanted to talk about the masks. So they didn't respond to her. She sent her son to school the next day without a mask. What happened? I stayed in contact with her all day. I said, hey, what's going on? What's happening? She messages me about 10 o'clock. She said, well, my son's been in the principal's office for the last hour. They're talking to me. And then I get a text message about a half hour later saying they sent him back to class, told him he didn't have to put a mask on. So guess what happened? More moms started doing that the next day. So the answer is to stand up. It takes one person to stand up and fight, and then more will follow. And we need that. We need vigilant parents in this time. Because, you know what? The truth is, I'm only in my 30s, but I feel like a lot of my influence in the world is already waning. Because there's another generation coming up behind us. They need to be taught. They need to be shown what freedom is. They are the future. If you want your child's future to be free, you need to teach them to be free.
Take them out of government school.
Yeah, take them out of government school. So we need.
You don't have to negotiate with them. Just pull your kid out.
We need vigilant parents, because if you're not vigilant, they're gonna get the Disney stuff. They're gonna get the crazy purple-haired teachers. They're gonna hear about the gender ideology.
Pull them out now.
It's just pull them out, stand up, be vigilant.
One thing in the whole pandemic era that I've been very pleased to see is it seems to me that in mass, people are rediscovering the primacy of local politics, that really is the most valuable politics. And, shout out to the moms, because they're the ones leading the charge on this. From what I could tell, they're the ones who are swarming the school board meetings. They're the ones demanding the mask mandates end. So I would say, there's multiple avenues here. On the political avenue, you got to go for that local level. You got to swarm those school boards. We need to start instilling fear in some of these people. There's no repercussions for them. There's no repercussions. So when you show up in mass and say, we're the mob now, then they have to think about it. But then on the avenues outside of politics, again, when it comes to homeschool, it's a new world. It's not like you have to be at home by yourself teaching your kid. There's co-ops. There's co-ops where you can have retired teachers who just can't take this crap anymore and have made their own curriculums. There's the Ron Paul homeschool curriculum that's based in having the children teach themselves, and you can do co-ops where they're with other kids, and it's not just you. That's the main thing. We have to rediscover that we're not by ourselves in these fights. And that empowers us to be more bold. But to get back to what Ian was saying, is that at the end of the day, yes, you're going to have to make sacrifices. And maybe you think, oh, I can't homeschool. Well, what if you downsized your standard of living? What then? Could you do it then?
Unschool. Seriously, compared to government school, I might just drop my kids off at the mall. That you got the Apple store, you got a food court.
That's pretty good.
I'm just saying that there's always alternatives, and there's a favorite quote: "Only a fool would let their enemy educate their children."
Malcolm X.
Yeah, Malcolm X. Okay, really, you might win some battles with these people, but why put your kid in the middle of that battle?
Why put yourself through it too? Yeah.
Right? You know what? You're going to have to pay for them to hurt other kids, but that doesn't mean your kid has to be involved. So that's all I want to say to that. Do you guys want to go into the next question?
Sure. It's a little preempted because it was similar to what you guys were talking about, but a slightly different angle. I'm Daniel Francisco. I'm a Second Amendment activist in New Jersey. I'm a plaintiff. Blue Star. That's not for today. I'm a plaintiff for Firearms Policy Coalition. So, Maj, you talking about violence? That hit me right here, man. 100% true. And especially you pointing at those kids, because that is the most important thing in this world. And that's what these people easily, not you people, but these statists quickly forget. So I'm like Ian, I'm also involved in the retail space in Monmouth County. And one of the issues that I not struggle explaining the merits of, because you all just articulated it. I'm of the position that government schools as an entity are the linchpin of generational statism. Like, they're not a solution to anything. So you all just talked about the solutions, and the solution is relative to the person, right? It can be appropriate to whoever is looking for a particular solution. That's for them to decide. What our friends talk about on a daily basis, and we argue, is not the people in this room, because if I say, hey, take your kid out of government school, everyone's going to clap here. But go on the trail with me and Ian and try to explain to a suburban mom that, hey, the idea of you going to a government school that's inculcated in your head because you went there, that is not a norm or a given or a cultural good. There are other solutions. So let's speak not so much about the solutions, because the solutions are out there and there are many. How do you talk to a normie and sell them on the idea that you don't have to do this? That's what we struggle with talking with normal parents, especially in our space, Ian, because people are inculcated that this is a good you must participate in.
Yeah, 100%. I'm very good I'm a translator. I played point guard. That dude's 7 feet, I'm not going to dunk on him, but my 6'8" guy may. So I just have to get my 6'8" guy to see it. So what you're talking about is a translation issue, right? I use the remote example with parents like that. My daughter, the last day that her mom wanted to, let's let her kind of go to school. And I was like, yo, the mask thing. And she's like, well, it's only for a minute. And literally, we got her there at 9:01. And they said, we can't let her up because it's 9 o'clock and it's for the protection with COVID. I literally took my daughter out of school and homeschooled her literally that day. I'm in the financial space to do that, though. To the sister's point, right? You have to translate it. You can do these things, but if this parent feels or thinks that they can't, then they can't, because they think they can't, right? So I use examples of I use the remote example a lot with those parents. And I talk about have you ever shown your child that they can change the television without the remote? And most parents are like, no, everybody uses the remote. Well, if you're of a certain age, you remember when you actually had to change the channel. And when you first got a remote, you were like, oh my God, I don't even have to get up to change this channel. By practically giving them that understanding that way, right? Then feeding them into, okay, so now you understand that. Who are some of the richest people in the world? Good, right, evil, bad, whatever. Bill Gates. He does not have a college degree, which means he's got an honorary degree, which means he made a bunch of money. Then he went back and they were like, you're rich, we're going to give you a degree, which explains the fallacy of even an upper level school. Then they can understand that. Then when you start to show them great people that have 7th grade level schooling, didn't go to school at all, you're starting to show them the concept of the paradigm that you're thinking about, much like that remote, or trying to show your child now that you can actually change the channel without a remote. It just depends on what conditioning you've presented to that person. Right. Now when they are familiar with that concept, now you can say, we've agreed that some people thought you couldn't change the television without a remote, your children. You know that you can change the television without the remote. They're mind blown that you can do that. You're now the person that is being presented into a new praxis. When you translate it to them that way first, you ease some of the anxiety around this concept that, what am I going to do without sending my thing to school? Then, as the sugar on top, you challenge them. Do you really believe that you can't? Or are you looking forward to have an 8-hour-a-day babysitter?
That's really what they want.
Because that's really what you want. But I can't challenge you until I've developed rapport. Once I've developed rapport and you get these concepts and I can translate them to you from both ways, now I can challenge you. Now you look in that mirror and go, damn, I am actually not really working very hard on snatching my child's mind from this matrix. I'm justifying it because of my lack of drive, because I want an 8-hour daycare center. You have to hit people with, it's a 3-step approach. Empathy first. It has to be empathy first. If it is not empathy first, you have not developed a rapport with that person. Then you hit them with the second part before empathy, which is facts. That's number 2. Facts are cold. When people say things like, facts don't care about your feelings, that person doesn't feel like you care about them. So empathy first, then the facts, then you come to the solution together. And the solution part is challenging. So what you're talking about is not hard. Conceptually, I'm not a rocket scientist, so we all pretty much get it. But it's getting past that initial hump of that fear or that anxiety. So it's empathy, then the facts of the matter, then the solution. So what we're talking about is, in essence, a translation problem in that space. And that works wonders for me.
Excellent.
So my left? Oh, there we go. Okay, so I agree with everything Maj just said. I would add to that, though, as part of the empathy step is understanding the feeling that's driving where they're coming from. In this case, it's a lot of anger. And the anger is usually directed at what you might call the flower and not the root of the problem. So they might say, man, these mask mandates are crazy. And so it's your job to then deconstruct mask mandates into government schools, utilizing the anger that they have. And you can sympathize with their anger because it's happening to our kids too, you know? But you can redirect that anger with populism. You know, and basically show how these elites and these people who run the schools, they don't care about us, they don't care about our kids, not just your kids, our kids, and that's where the empathy comes in. But you can redirect that anger, because anger can be destructive, but it can also be very motivating and very active. So I would say that is a part of it too.
Excellent, thanks.
One last thing to add to that. The way Maj broke that down was beautifully said. But that strategy is only going to work with some people. And the reality is that not everybody's ready for a solution because they haven't been hit hard enough yet. And they haven't suffered enough. And it sucks that that's the case, you know, but we saw that with COVID. People weren't really concerned about COVID until that vaccine mandate really came. They were willing to put up with the masks. They were willing to put up with businesses being shut down because they were, you know, they had an office job or something like that, and they were sitting at home getting a paycheck. But all of a sudden, when it was, wait, I got to get a vaccine now, then they cared. So there's a certain number of people that no matter how hard you try to get through to them, they won't hear it yet. So we focus our attention and energy with that same strategy to the receptive people, to the people that are asking for help, but that are doing so with open ears and an open mind too.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Right on.
Hey guys, what you said actually hit me pretty hard when basically early on you started wearing a mask because you really didn't know any better, and then later on you dropped it basically by just like going into like, you know, getting your coffee. I pretty much did the same thing, and yeah, like you get one look and it's like all you do is look and be like, what? And like they're like,
Never mind.
yeah, exactly. So definitely, like I love that. With the recent takeover of Twitter from Elon Musk, it really revealed to me like exactly how much social media is used to actually drive public opinion on a lot of things. With regards to networking, what are some of the platforms that you guys use on a regular basis to avoid all of that?
I don't avoid it. I just expect contact. I had pages with a few 100,000. They gonna take them. It's not yours. It's theirs. And I'm just here hanging out, talking shit and informing people. That is dangerous. So I don't avoid them. If I get snatched off a platform, there's a reason why they're concentrating on the bigger platforms. Main Man spent $44 billion to get Twitter. Like that. That's not like an investment play. That's a investment for something else because of the power play. You know what I'm saying? So if you still network on those. Be a little creative. Say jab. Don't say. He says, what is it? Goof it, right? Switch the words up a little bit, but then hit Discord. Also hit Rumble. Also hit Getter. Also hit Gab. The ones that are really good to go at, if mainstream media is calling it like white supremacist, use that one. Use that one. Right? So, and then do the other ones too. Telegram is pretty cool, setting up groups in Telegram, but don't leave the platforms. Don't leave the platforms. They're absolutely going to see you out. So you don't even have to leave. Then get back on. I'm on like my 3rd and 4th Instagram page. You know what I'm saying? And you just cannot have an emotional attachment to this thing. It is a vehicle. That's all it is. So just kind of like master copy and paste. Once I get a post, run it through all of your platforms, copy and paste, go, and then just expect that content.
Cool.
Big Daddy 2 Ray. BIGDADDYTOURE. That's my new Instagram.
Yeah, someone hacked my Facebook account, so I was lucky to get a second account, which I'm pretty excited about because, it is about education. There's a book, just jumping back, Who Moved My Cheese, I would recommend to read. It's just a good, quick book for kids to read, figure out who they are in how they want to be. Are they the first one to rush to the craziest thing to happen, or are they going to wait to see what happens with you? I think as a parent, I kind of wanted to see what my kids would be like, because of course it can help guide you as a parent to lift them up for where their strengths are. And of course, the second book, which of course is my favorite, is Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. I don't know if you've read that, and if it's a choice to do it, it's like a fine wine. Read it over take your time and read the paragraphs over and over. But I luckily became John Galt on Facebook, which of course, if you know the character, it's just a premise in life of every one of us being a John Galt. So,
but would John Galt actually be on Facebook?
I
think he would have dropped out and we would have never heard from him again.
I think he'd want to take some people with him, but he does come back on the radio at the end and speaks his truth and says, hey, we're free. Come on, wake up, everyone. This has been a crazy nightmare we've been running through. The pressure to put that mask on, the hypnotic moments in life that they kind of made people crazy. I could say that.
You know what's my bad?
You are welcome to jump in anytime.
Y'all do know if the pressure's too much, maybe not in this room, but if the pressure's too much, just fold. That's a part of freedom too. You can fold. You can just go, nah, I'm gonna it's not my fight. Yeah. You are welcome to do that. Don't let us pressure you into being. Some of your friends are gonna have a gun, but they not shooters. And you should very quickly find out which one of your friends or who these people are. If that is not your space, if you want to inform and wear a mask and all of that, that's a part of that freedom too. So I want to make sure people understand, because we're talking about the pressure of social media, because I don't want you to get involved this level if you're going to fold. Know what your lane and position is, because this conversation about medical freedom and health and the jab and masks might quite literally be like the freedom conversation of our generation. Oh, yeah. You understand what I'm saying? So I just kind of want everybody to understand that using these platforms, studying stuff like that is going to fundamentally change you. But if you haven't made that decision really to stand tall, find out what your lane is, because you could be actually being more of a detriment to yourself or your family. If you got the gun and I think you a shooter and we shooting, I don't want you next to me. I just wanted to throw that in there real quick.
I would add, you got to take stock of what you're using social media for, because most people just go on it, make a profile, and off they go, and they're kind of operating off a whim. But what are you using it for? What does social media even mean? Are you just keeping up with your grandma and sharing cat videos? If that's the case and it's something innocent like that, you're probably okay. For me, it's a tool. And so if I'm going to play the tool, I'm going to have to abide by a certain, I don't have any control over it. So I'm going to have to abide by the rules of the game to maximize the tool. So what I do is you pick up little subtle things, you scan, I scan reacts of people. So if somebody, for example, I've built the Mises Caucus mainly off of Facebook, right? And we have 250 organizers, we have thousands of volunteers. And basically, I would just look for, for example, if somebody mentioned Ron Paul, and then that comment gets 80 likes, I would then start to friend request those likes. Because again, it's all about building the network, and it's a tool. And what is the job that I'm trying to do, and how can this tool help me achieve that job? And then once you determine that, knowing what the rules are to stay in the game. I hate that we have to sometimes deny posts into our Facebook group and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is that Facebook still has the most number of users of any social media platform. That Facebook group is how we get people doing things like this in the real world. So take stock of what you're even using it for, and then be conscious in maximizing that use case.
All right. I think we have time for a couple more questions.
So we've heard a lot about sort of open, principled objection to the mandates, including like getting fired over this sort of thing. How do you feel about, let's say, subverting the mandates in other ways? Do you think that's an ethical choice, or is it better to be open about your objection?
I would say our opinion doesn't matter. It's everyone's got to take stock of what they're willing to sacrifice and what they're willing to do. And so if the best thing for you to do is go to fakemasksusa.com and get a fake mask, then do that. Like if that's as far as you're willing to go, then do that. It doesn't matter if I think it's ethical. Like it matters, are you able to live with yourself and feel good about yourself? Are you living out your truth in a way that you don't feel like you're lying to yourself? That is the most important thing, not my opinion on whether you are being ethical.
When you say subverted in other ways, kind of what exactly do you mean by that? Like in that, like are you saying like
fake cards
and shit? So I could have made 100K.
Let's just say creative paperwork.
Right.
Yes.
So for me, I could have made 100K selling BGM masks easy. It would have been a no-brainer, especially with a lot of FUDs that was like following along with the rules. Right? Rules. I could have, but it's to Mike's point. It's just nah, bro. I'm not even playing that game. I got kicked off a bunch of planes, and it was just like, one is good. It's better for my rep to be. I'm a rebel. If I start going somewhere, can you imagine if like Ian is like sneaking with like a mask on? First of all, we're gonna see the shit. That's number one. And number two, it just becomes like, yo, we've made these particular stands in this thing. Now, if you're, as the free market enterprise dude, if your position is, yo, bro, I'm selling fake cards. If I have a market for people that want what you have, I'm gonna plug you with them. I'm not buying one. And I hope you make $2 million off it. Don't go to jail, right? Or when they come catch you or try to catch you, my man got a safe house. That's where I'm at with it. So, but that's, again, to Mike's point, it's just the individual choice in that regard. But for me, it was just like, it gotta be, I don't want y'all to have they'll manipulate the stats to act like everybody's cool with it based on the fake card joints that's being shown.
Sure.
So for me, it was kind of like, nah, I don't even want to play that game. But I'm also not judgmental for somebody that found a pocket for themselves. You know what I mean?
I want to just add that, I think you're entitled to your freedom by force or by stratagem or whatever the hell you have to do to get by and not be dominated by these people.
If I could say something. So, of course, when this all happened, I was at home, and I have a neighbor who's an engineer, and I said, we should come up with a soda app, a social distancing app that, like, you wear on your body, and, of course, it would be red if a person was 6 feet close. So it was like one of those, like, as you said, as an entrepreneur, you could see, like, there's opportunities to take. And I was doing it as a joke. So I was wearing a soda cap. We called it a soda cap, which was this device on your head that you wore on a baseball cap, and of course, if someone was coming towards you, you'd be like, "Oh, you're yellow. Stand back!" And I was like, what would be funny would be if this really went big, And there was a big concert going on. I'd be like, everyone out there, we all need to be green because then we know we have a socially distanced concert. We could be in compliance to what they really want. And I mean, of course, it was a joke to me, but I also was like, this will be pretty funny if we can come out with a social distancing app. So I had a lanyard, like the the face Mr. Potato Head, but it was a lanyard, which of course you can make faces on and show if you're happy that day because your face would be happy, and it would have a social distancing app. And that was like I said, I mean, having that opportunity to create something for the market, but truthfully, we shouldn't even have to like create something like that.
At the end of the day, it's all about personal choice. That's I think why we're all here today. We're all here, to talk about liberty, and everybody summed it up correctly. It's what are you capable of? Maj said it. You don't have to be this rebel who's disobeying every order that comes your way. You have to pick your battles. There's a lot of parents out there who are single parents who live paycheck to paycheck. And I had tons of them contacting me, saying, "What do I do? My morals say I shouldn't get a fake card, but it's just me and my kid, and I'm a nurse, and if I get fired, there's no food on the table, and but I want to fight. Not every fight is your fight. You can." Like Maj said again, sometimes you could be detrimental to yourself by getting in over your head and working beyond your means. And that doesn't mean that that's forever either. The reality is that we are in a cultural and societal war. And there are battles to be had for a very long time until we get to a place where we do have an ideal society. So it's not always about running to the first fight and dying on that hill. That might not be your hill. So especially as somebody with limited resources, if you have children and stuff like that, or if you do have a job, sometimes you just got to stick and move and operate, like you said, subvert it in other ways. Because at the end of the day, you have to protect yourself and your personal interests before you can be of value to the people around you.
When you're on that plane and they tell you every time people don't be paying attention, put your face mask on before you help others. You know what I'm saying? And anybody that's gonna try to trip because you did a thing, it's like, bruh, that person probably isn't coming from a very freedom-based perspective in the first place. If they now I might say, yo, I'm not doing that shit. But if you're like, bro, nurses who 2 years ago were heralded as the heroes that they are, now all of a sudden they're the harbingers of death. They got to deal with stuff that you got to give that grace and extend that grace. That's what love, empathy, and freedom is really all about.
And I would just add, everybody's already said some great things here. I can't disagree with doing what's right for you. So what I would say is, the greatest act of protest in the face of tyranny is the choice to live free of fear. And so my question for you would be, what would it mean for you to live free of fear? If you feel like in order to live free of fear, you have to take that subversive measure, such as, fakemasks.com or whatever, then do it. I think the one I bought was minimally compliant masks. That's the one I got.
The websites keep getting canceled, and they have to make it.
Yeah, I didn't like my fake mask because it looked too realistic.
Yes.
No, it looks like I'm complying. I can't wear this.
So that's how I ended up feeling about it too. So, but we talked about that sort of thing with when we were scheduling our happy hour with the bar. We were like, so do we want to have all of these? Do we want to have all these medical and religious exemption papers here so that if they do come to shut us down, we can just hand people, an exemption paper or something like that? And we decided that for us, the answer was no. We don't want to go that route. We just want to be blatant. We want to live free of fear and just do our thing. But for someone else, if living free of fear means like you were talking about, like someone losing their job, as a nurse or something, and they need to get around that, then you got to do what you got to do to live free of fear. And that's the greatest act of protest, whether it's overt or subversive or whatever. So live free.
Good question.
Right on.
Okay, this is really tall. All right. Hi, guys. Thank you very much for coming in today. Okay, I'm going to break the rules a little bit. I'm sorry. I'm not going to ask a question. I just want to make a general statement. I just want to offer encouragement to other parents out there. I've been homeschooling for 12 years now. I never dreamed that I would ever homeschool. My husband was the one who encouraged me to homeschool. Thank you. I was brainwashed into believing that I was not capable of taking care of my own children, that the school system knew them better than I did. Other people knew my children better than I did. I believe in God. I believe it's my God-given right to raise my own kids, and that God specifically gave them to me because I am the perfect parent for them, and so is my husband. But what I want to do is offer encouragement because I understand the frustration that you're feeling with the school districts, and I'm thankful to every parent that has stood up for their rights and gone against the school system, because they're going to come after homeschoolers after they come after you. So, I'm thankful for what you are all doing. So just know that most homeschoolers are thankful for what you're doing. But I want to offer encouragement because you have other options, even though they make you believe you do not have other options. There's a huge homeschooling community out there that you just don't see. They're everywhere. If you go to a park during the day, during the week, you will meet a homeschooler usually. And they're everywhere, and they're offering other options. So if you have to work during the day and you feel like you can't leave that job, there are other homeschool parents that want your kids to be free from the school system and will be offering to watch them during the day or homeschool them during the day. It might involve some bartering. So I am by career a singer and an actress, so I will offer voice lessons or acting lessons, and in return they will give my kids math or science lessons. That is an option that is available. So there are so many options for you that you can get. There's homeschool co-ops everywhere. That socialization myth that they're not going to be socialized. My kids are some of the most outgoing kids out there, and I'm not saying that to be prideful. I'm just saying that they are outgoing and they want to talk, and it's just the best way to become a free thinker and think for yourself outside of the system. So there are options. They are available to you, and if you want to find out what those options are, just go to a homeschooler such as myself, and we can help you out to get your kids out of that system. They don't have to be in there. That is the biggest lie you are being told. You can get them out, and you are capable. You are their parent, not the school system, not the government. It's you. And thank you.
You guys taking any more of these or what? It's not so much a question, but I just want to give gratitude to the two entrepreneurs who are here, who stand up against the establishment and try to make things better for people. And I thank you for founders of organizations here. I'm very thankful that you guys are here, that, we're all just trying to live freely. We don't want to lord it over our neighbor, and we don't want to be lorded over by our neighbors. And we want to live freely. And I think that in order to live that way, we have to say that that's really up to us. We can't look to government to do that for us, right? We have to do it ourselves. The answer is in you. It's not really in government. So we can't look to government to give us solutions. We have to find the solutions ourselves, in spite of government, right? Whatever government's doing, we have to find a way to work around it. And I just want to encourage everybody here, because it's not easy trying to make decisions in this current climate with everything that's going on. But rest assured, the answer is not in government. It's in you personally. You have to look in yourself. You have to decide what your morals are and what path you're going to take. And you're going to have a portfolio of things that you're going to do. Maybe it's just not in one perspective. Maybe it's, investing a little bit in this political cause that you think is going to advance and do things well for you. Maybe it's decisions you make about your schooling for your kids. Maybe it's in decisions about what you do with your finances, right? But what we have to do is we have to oppose this beast that is trying to overtake us by unplugging from the system and finding our ways around it. We have to look for solutions outside of government and within ourselves, absolutely. We have to find our way ourselves to be able to get through what is going on right now. So please, don't say to government, come and save us. Decide what the solutions are and how we're all going to move together in working towards something that is much better than what's going on right now. And that's all I got to say. Just look to yourself,
Right on.
We got to figure it out.
I'll follow that up with a Nietzsche quote that always really hits me of, he who has a why can overcome any how. Once you find your meaning and you find your purpose, you can't be stopped.
Right on. Well, I'd like to thank our panelists, all of our speakers, and especially everybody here. Thank you so much for attending, coming together, making new friends, building our network. Thank you for all the solutions.